Hello, my name is Cameron Holmes. I'm 21 years old, and I'm a student here at State Fair Community College in Sedalia, Missouri. Today, I'll be giving you a report of a book that I chose to read, and the name of this book is Death Acres: Inside the Legendary Forensic Body Farm Where the Dead Do Tell Tales by Dr. Bill Bass and John Jefferson, with the help of Patricia Cornwell, who is one of the most famous crime authors to ever live. This book is actually Bill Bass's memoir, where he talks about how his life has been spent studying dead bodies, which eventually led to the creation of a place called the Anthropology Research Facility, which is more commonly known today as the Body Farm. This is a plot of land near the University of Tennessee's Tennessee Medical Center, where Bass and many others, even some of his students, study the decomposition of dead bodies. I chose this book because I've always had a fascination with anything to do with mysteries, such as disappearances, unidentified decedents, and murder cases. And this book provides a little bit of both scientific mystery and regular crime mystery. And that left me fascinated, so that's why I picked it. My favorite parts of the book were definitely the different stories of how Bill Bass was connected to some criminal cases, and I'll be talking about just a few of them. In 1932, Charles Lindbergh, one of the most famous pilots in the world, his son Charles Lindbergh Jr. was kidnapped in 1932, and his body was later found by a nearby road. He was missing a leg and 2 arms. His cause of death was later determined to be head trauma. Bruno Hauptmann was later found guilty and sentenced to death for his murder, but would profess his innocence until his death via the electric chair in 1936. Bruno's widow would call Bill Bass in 1982 in an attempt to clear his name. But after exhuming the bones, Bill concluded that the bones belonged to someone of 22 months. Charles Lindbergh Jr. was almost 2 years old when his body was discovered. Another case Bill covered was a man with no head. In December of 1977, he was asked to exhume the body of a man in Franklin County, Tennessee, a man who died in the Civil War as a colonel in the Confederate Army. His body was dressed in a tuxedo, and oddly enough, his body had no head. This is because he was shot in the head during the Civil War, and his skull had been shattered in 17 places. What's strange about this case is that there was no missing persons reports and no reports of the man's description or anybody matching his description. Despite this, Dr. Bass went ahead with the exhumation, which is when a body is dug up for tests such as DNA, another autopsy, isotope tests, etc. After exhuming and looking over the body, Dr. Bass concluded that the body had been decomposing for about 2 months. And by golly, was he wrong. Because after a year without any luck of identifying the body, Bass suddenly realized that the body, when it was found, was sitting atop an iron cast coffin. And why is this so significant? Because a coffin like this restricts oxygen and causes bacteria growth to slow down. In reality, the body had been dead for over 100 years, and because of the iron cast coffin, it looked like it had been decomposing for 2 months. While this was embarrassing for Dr. Bass, it did leave him intrigued going forward. Another story. The last story I'm going to talk about is about the very first corpse to arrive at the body farm. The corpse arrived in 1981, and they found that it had decomposed at a very rapid rate. Bill Rodriguez, one of Bill's students, who is now an entomologist, did a study of insects on the body. And during this, Rodriguez made a shocking discovery. The corpse had attracted blowflies, which can occur in minutes when they smell rotting bodies, and can lay thousands and hatch thousands of eggs in just a matter of hours. Because of Rodriguez's study, he became a widely known figure in the world of anthropology and entomology, and was even mentioned in a lot of criminal cases. His most prominent case is Lisa Rinker. She was an 18-year-old girl who went missing in 1984 from Virginia, and her body was found a week later, and when Bill examined her, her face was completely gone, which just showed the rate of decomposition. After doing more tests, Bill Rodriguez found out that since it was August and because of the heat, the maggots would consume the surrounding tissue in the blood wounds a lot faster than normal. And in his memoir, Bill Bass calls this differential decomposition. Thanks to Bill, a man was linked to Lisa's murder with the help of the blowflies and some more DNA testing. And that man was her boyfriend at the time she died, Bernie Woody. But despite this, the district attorney's office in Fairfax County, Virginia, remains unwilling to prosecute the case. So as of now, despite the evidence, the case remains unsolved. The main topic of this book is forensic anthropology, and it has affected me a lot, and it has affected me a lot more. And the reason why is because it's just such a breath of fresh air, because I'm very, very passionate and have a fascination for this kind of stuff. I'm sure today if you ask other people about the body farm, people will think it's some kind of dumping ground for a serial killer in a rural part of the United States. But really, it's a place where Bill Bass is conducting studies with his students on the decomposition of dead bodies. I've learned a lot from this book, and I can gladly take this information to heart as I go forward with a possible career as a freelance writer in the world of crime and science. I learned that maggots, while disgusting for sure, can play a big part in investigation, as they can help determine how long the body has been decomposing. And I also learned from a story of a man who helped solve a murder case based on the saw used to dismember the body of a murder victim who just so happened to be one of Bill's students. So even the most random things can help solve any case. The most important thing I learned, especially when it comes to forensic science, is that you have to be prepared for anything, because, like I mentioned before, Bill Bass exhumed a body that had been dead for over 100 years, and estimated that it had been decomposing for about 2 months because of the coffin it was in. So just a tip for anybody who wants to go into that field: looks and appearances of a dead body can be deceiving. I will admit, when I first saw this book, I wasn't all that excited about it because I had very limited options. But when I started reading it, I was a lot more impressed when I got into it. This book provides in-depth analysis on Bill Bass and his rise as an anthropologist. It includes one of the most famous kidnapping cases in history, Charles Lindbergh Jr., and the creation of the now infamous body farm, and some analysis on cases that Bill Bass and some of his former students have connections to. And it's also worth mentioning that the body farm also almost got taken away and almost got shut down because people were so disgusted by it. And there was even a law to try to take it away, but it ended up getting shelved in a 5-4 vote by the local community. I really enjoyed this book, and I would gladly recommend it to anybody. But then again, I'm not really one to go into the field of forensic science. But if you want to go into it, I would gladly recommend this book, and you might be fascinated with what you see. That's all I have. Thank you guys so much for watching.